Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include layers, lawyers, and lampoons.
Wrong! What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you people? Wrong! You do have to tolerate it. It's my show.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1! On a roll! The Israeli government has cracked down on this massive smuggling operation. People are smuggling in hundreds of pounds of fruit roll-ups. And why is there such a demand for fruit roll-ups in Israel? Well, because there was this TikTok video that showed that you could unroll a fruit roll-up, put ice cream in the middle of it, and then fold it up and serve it. And people in Israel are going nuts for this. And you're probably thinking, okay, I kind of get the concept. I haven't tried the ice cream thing, but maybe I'll try it. But why do people need to smuggle in fruit roll-ups to Israel? Like, don't they have fruit roll-ups there? And the answer is yes, they have them. But here in the United States, they cost about $3 a box. In Israel, because of tariffs and importing and all that kind of stuff, they cost $10 a box. And so people are seeing an economic opportunity here by just filling up their suitcases with fruit roll-ups. Somebody tried to smuggle in 375 pounds of fruit roll-ups. And they were caught, and those fruit roll-ups were confiscated. And that 375 pounds, that wasn't even the first time in 1 week somebody had tried to smuggle in hundreds of pounds of fruit roll-ups. They got 661 pounds in just a matter of days. And, let's just all give it up for free markets, right? Open up those trade lines, Israel. Issue number 2, Your Honor. There was a guy who was on an airline and the drink cart was coming by and it hit his knee and he was suing the airline for damages because it hurt. And he hired this lawyer and the lawyer submitted evidence showing that this kind of lawsuit was totally okay. Here's precedent. Like, here's all the other people who have sued airlines over injuries involving carts. And the lawyer, let's be delicate and say he was lazy. He did not want to write this thing up for the court on behalf of his client. So he just typed something into ChatGPT saying, write me a legal brief with cases involving injuries on airlines. And ChatGPT gave him this legal brief, totally the right format. He submitted to the judge, and then the judge was like looking things over, and these cases that the lawyer had cited, they weren't real. In fact, 6 of the cases that he submitted as precedent for this kind of thing were totally fake. They didn't exist at all. And this is the thing you need to know about ChatGPT. You give it a writing assignment, and its chief goal is just to fill the space, to give you words in the format you're asking for. And it doesn't matter if it's real or not. It just makes things up. And this lawyer, he's like, okay, like, great. It gave me this legal brief. I better make sure these cases are real. So he typed into ChatGPT, is this case real? For all 6 cases. And ChatGPT said, yes, this case is real. This is what happened in this case. And he's like, cool. This is great. I'm just going to pass it on. He didn't even go to an outside source. Like, lawyers have the ability to look things up in actual legal history. They have services that will do this for them. He could have just copied those cases into that service and it would have told him if it was real or not. So this cost the court all kinds of time and confusion because these cases didn't exist. And this lawyer is going to be facing some sort of censure, some sort of punishment. I don't know if he'll be disbarred, but he's for sure going to get fined, and he could be prevented from seeing a judge for several years. Here's the moral of the story for you. Don't be lazy. Like, ChatGPT is great. There's good uses for it, but man, you better know. And here's the other moral of the story. I was telling the lovely Wendy about this story, and I was like, well, they're going to make an example of this guy so that nobody does this ever again. Like, everybody's going to know, don't use ChatGPT for writing your legal briefs. And she's like, you're so naive. Like, of course people are going to do this again. There's going to be a lot more people doing this because they're like, oh, he just made this one mistake. It would have been fine other than that. And she is absolutely right. We can expect to see more people submitting fake cases to judges based on ChatGPT. Hey, it's time. What are the rules?
Oh, what are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules?
My youngest daughter is in elementary school. They recently had an open house. We were touring all the amazing work that she and her classmates had done. And her class, in addition to several other classes, had a very similar art project. And that was to copy and be inspired by the artwork of Georgia O'Keeffe. And this it boggles my mind. Like, I am scandalized. I am truly scandalized that they are using Georgia O'Keeffe as an inspiration for artwork for elementary students.
Wrong!
And whenever I think this happened last year as well, and whenever I complain about it, the lovely Wendy, she's like, you are the only one who knows this. You're the only one. And that stops now. You now will know why I'm scandalized by this. Georgia O'Keeffe is this modern American painter known for her watercolors of flowers. They're very beautiful. Look some up, but when you look them up, I want you to, in your imagination, replace the purples and the blues and the greens and the pinks that she uses to paint these flowers. I want you to reimagine those paintings in flesh colors. And when you do, you will see why these paintings are not appropriate for school children. You would consider them pornographic if you saw them in the right colors or in a different color. And I'm not just making this up. I'm not like, hey, look, if you look at it this wrong way, then it's, this other thing. Like some people, like every sword in a Shakespearean play is a phallus. And I'm not doing that. I'm saying, no, Georgia O'Keeffe was literally trying to do this. This was her intention. She explicitly said, that's what I'm doing. So here's the rule. When it comes to elementary art projects, no more O'Keeffe. Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@thewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, thewrongpodcast.com, and help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. I was wrong.
I was wrong. I was wrong.
Listener Aussie Guy 44 writes in response to episode 63, which I published about a year ago. It was episode 63. I called it the Democratic Debt March. And he said, I'm assuming it's a he because it's Aussie Guy 44, but we could never assume, really. The Democratic Party is marching toward a significant defeat in the upcoming midterm elections. Wow, you got that wrong. Evangelicals who are so much scandal, especially the example of Jerry Falwell Jr., also Hillsong and Ravi Zacharias. Now, I'm just reading that as he wrote it. I think he's missing a few words there. And yes, I was wrong about the Democratic Party marching towards a significant defeat. I published that episode in May. The election was in November. And what I didn't see coming was that the Republican Party would nominate a bunch of election deniers. The Democratic Party still lost the House, but they did not lose the Senate, and they did not lose the House at the margin that everybody thought they would. So yes, you were right. I was wrong. In addition, 2 years ago, at almost exactly the same time, same point in the year, I published episode 33. And in that episode, I said that within 2 years, some politician would try to unite the country by finding a common enemy for us. And that common enemy, I said, would be China. And I had a little Google alert go off this week that said, hey, you said this 2 years ago. Were you right or were you wrong? And I was wrong. No politician has done that. I, of course, the problem with predicting the future is you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you don't know what other things might curtail whatever prediction you were making. There is still a lot of buzz about concern about China and how they might attack Taiwan, how they might flex their muscles economically and militarily in the world. This just within the last couple of days, there was a story of Joe Biden trying to cool things down with China. And at the same time, the head of the CIA said, hey, China is really or maybe it was the Pentagon, whoever it was, big time government official was like, what China's doing is messed up. And, the easy thing for me to do in this situation was to say, hey, the prediction was right. I was just wrong about the timeline. And there are a plethora of religious prophets throughout world history who've done the exact same sort of thing. Hey, my prediction will come true. I'm just wrong on the timeline. Stay in there with me. It's going to happen. I am not going to do that in this situation. I'm just going to confess that I was wrong. Maybe it will happen in the future. I don't know, but it didn't happen in the timeline I said, so I was wrong. Issue number 3. Proud of you. A little bit ago in episode 81, I had described a trans man named Dylan Mulvaney. He is a man who is attempting to portray himself as a woman. He identifies as a woman. And since that time, you should go back and listen to that episode. But since that time, Bud Light decided to make Dylan Mulvaney one of their spokespeople. And he dressed up as Aubrey Hepburn, and they put this picture of him dressed as Aubrey Hepburn from Breakfast at Stephanie's, and they put out all these beer cans with Dylan Mulvaney on them, and people were like, no, we do not want this guy on our beer cans. And Bud Light sales have dramatically dropped. The head of marketing for Bud Light has been put on this indefinite leave, and they've lost 30% of their sales. They were having to buy back beer from some of their distributors because nobody could sell it. And when they started doing this, then there were gay bars who were like, hey, why aren't you supporting us? We're not going to sell your beer either. Just a massive marketing failure for Bud Light. And before I move on, I know that some of you are going nuts that I called her Aubrey Hepburn, but I know her name is Aubrey Hepburn because I saw her mother in Little Women. Her mother, Katharine Hepburn. I saw her in Little Women, and I also saw her daughter, Laura Hepburn, in Jurassic Park and that dumb Star Wars movie with the flying space princess. I know her name is Aubrey Hepburn. So why did I bring all this up? Well, there was a massive backlash. It's Pride Month here in the United States, and people are trying to boycott Bud Light. They're also boycotting Target because they're selling trans-affirming clothing for children, and they are also trying to boycott Chick-fil-A. There's just a lot of talk about boycotting people now. There's hey, we've got power, let's use it. And they've even transformed the name Bud Light into a verb. Hey, let's go Bud Light that company. And I'm going to move into, as you know, one of my favorite topics in the world, and that's baseball. Because baseball is not immune from this sort of thing. And let me tell you one thing about baseball. Baseball teams have 81 home games a year. They play 162 games, 81 of them are at home. And the average baseball stadium seats about 40,000 people. So they've got to find a way to sell 40,000 tickets 81 times a year. And to do that, they use all kinds of marketing gimmicks. They'll have Star Wars nights. They give away bobbleheads. They'll have, hot dog eating contests, like anything they can think of to get people to come to the game aside from just the baseball itself. And so they'll do these things where it's like Little League Day, and every Little League team in the area is invited to come, and they all march on the field before the game. And they'll have dance studio night where all the dance studios are allowed to come out, and the kids do this dance all together on the baseball field. They'll have German Heritage Night, they'll have Muslim Heritage Night, and they'll have Pride Nights. And all of these nights have one thing in common. They're just trying to sell baseball tickets. They want people to come out. They know that if they put those little leaguers out on the field, that their family members will also come to the baseball game because they want to see their kid on the field. They will frequently have different people sing the national anthem. They could hire one person to sing the national anthem every night, but they invite other people to sing for all those different games because they know that, look, there's 20 to 40 people who may not have come that night to watch the baseball game, but they'll come watch their relative or their friend sing the national anthem. All of these things are meant to do one thing and one thing only: sell baseball tickets. And Pride Nights are absolutely part of that marketing strategy. They're like, hey, there's a lot of people who are identifying as LGBTQ. There's a lot of people who are allies. They're excited about this new worldview, this new expression. They'll come to a baseball game just because we call it Pride Night. And baseball teams have been inviting churches to these sort of events for a very long time. They'll call them Christian worship nights, or they'll call it, Nazarene night, or Baptist night, or Methodist night, and all of the Pentecostal or all the Presbyterian churches will come out together on that night, and somebody who's significant to that denomination will throw out the first pitch, and somebody else who's significant will sing the national anthem, and there might be a concert afterwards. What you will never see in any of these Christian nights for any baseball team anywhere in the country is you will not see Westboro Baptist Church invited to go on the field before the game and be honored or awarded or recognized by any baseball team. Westboro Baptist Church is known for showing up to funerals and letting everybody know that that person died for one reason or another because of homosexuality's acceptance in our culture. It could be police officers or veterans or homosexuals, but their big thing is to come out and tell everybody how much God hates homosexuality. And they do it in the most profane and disturbing ways they can think of. And they are filled with righteous certainty that this is the way to share the good news of Christianity. And just about every Christian I know is very willing to say, no, they're not doing it the right way. They're not doing it in a God-honoring, Jesus-centered, grace-filled, winsome way. Their message is actually hurting the cause of Christianity because they are such a blight on our name and reputation. So not only would no baseball team invite Westboro Baptist Church onto the field, very few Christians are like, yeah, we support them. We want them to be honored with us. We want them there with us. And that brings me to the Dodgers Pride Night. This year, the Dodgers have invited all kinds of LGBTQ organizations and clubs onto their field to be honored before the game. And one of those organizations they invited was this group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgences. And the sisters, I'll just call them the sisters from here on out. They are a drag troupe They dress up as Catholic nuns and they wear clown makeup and they dress up like sexy Catholic nuns and they mock Catholics. Like, that's the bottom line. They're like, we love homosexuality. We love alternative lifestyles. The best way to communicate our love for these things is to mock the Catholic Church. In addition to dressing up like nuns, they've been known to pole dance on crosses, sometimes with Jesus, somebody, pretending to be Jesus on the cross. And many, many LGBT groups are not thrilled with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgences. They're not thrilled with the way they're presenting their message. And they recognize that this is hurting the larger cause. And the sisters, just like the Westboro Baptist Church, they are certain that this is the best way to express themselves. And a Catholic organization reached out to the Dodgers and said, hey, are you sure you want this group on your field? Are you sure you want to be recognizing and honoring them on your baseball field? And if there was some group, and the way they thought was the best way to get their message out was to dress up like Native Americans or African Americans, and they were not part of either of those ethnicities, nobody would invite them, right? They'd be like, no, that's off limits. You are not allowed to capitalize on the racial and ethnic heritage of these other groups. There's been this big push to say, hey, little white kids should not dress up like Moana, and they should not dress up like Pocahontas. That is cultural appropriation. And what the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are doing is they are culturally appropriating the Catholic faith. And they're doing so not just because they like it, they're doing it to mock it. They're actually saying this thing is a cartoon. It's clownish. We want to show everybody how cartoonish this faith is. So a Catholic organization said, hey, it's not right to have them on your field. You should uninvite them. And the Los Angeles Dodgers said, you know what? You were right. They put out a public statement saying, hey, we didn't mean to distress any of our Catholic friends who are fans of baseball. We're sorry that we invited this group. And that immediately created a backlash from the LGBTQ community. And there were many of those groups who were going to be on the field with the sisters who said, hey, if you're not inviting them, then we're not coming either. And so the Dodgers had to backtrack and they said, we're so sorry. We're reaching out to all of our LGBTQ friends and we're looking to learn more. And we, of course, want the sisters there with us. And one of the arguments in favor of having the sisters there is that they raise awareness about AIDS and they've taken care of many people dying of AIDS. And that is great. I am so glad that they've done those things. But do they have to mock Catholics while they do them? If I came to you and said, hey, you shouldn't exclude the Westboro Baptist Church because they really take care of their own people. When people in their church are suffering, they come around them. They really help them. They get them the health care they need. And, they're really well known for all the money they give to homeless shelters and soup kitchens. That's all great. You would say, good for them that they do that, but still, they're not allowed on our field because of the way they treat homosexuals. And the same logic should apply to the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Great. Any of the good work they do is great. We're not going to honor them because of the way they mistreat Catholics. The Dodgers, they tried to make this all better for Catholics and for Christians by saying, hey, guess what, everybody? We're having a faith and family night. A couple of weeks later, after Pride Night, we're going to have this faith and family night where after the game, we're going to have a worship service where Christian worship songs are sung. And, I don't know why anybody's excited about the faith and family night. This forgives what they're doing to the Catholic faith. It seems kind of cheap to me. oh yeah, we're going to let people make fun of you, but don't worry, we're going to give you your own special night. Like, how about you not giving me my special night and just not make fun of me? Like, not honor people who are actively mocking Catholics. That would feel a lot better to me than to give me a night where I can do whatever I want. Because you're not going to, I mean, right? You're not going to allow the Westboro Baptist Church onto the field for Faith and Family Night, right? And this is all about woke capitalism. Again, I said earlier, what these baseball teams want to do is sell baseball tickets. What Bud Light was trying to do was sell beer. What Target is trying to do is sell stuff. They're all just trying to sell stuff. And they're going to use whatever's available to them to sell whatever they have to sell. And if it doesn't sell for them, or if it causes sales to go backwards, they're going to stop it. And I heard one of the designers of the merchandise that Target was planning on selling for Pride Month, they pulled his stuff off the shelves. And he said, this is the problem with woke capitalism. These companies have our back if they think they can use us to sell stuff. But if there's any economic backlash at all, they abandon us right away. And he is not wrong. That's exactly what happens for all of these companies. So don't get too caught up in what they're selling or if they're inviting you onto their fields. It's all just a marketing gimmick for them. Don't be excited that suddenly you're accepted and they're happy and the Dodgers are a Christian organization because they're having a Faith and Family Night. They're not. They're just selling tickets. And I do not like boycotts. I'm so conflicted about boycotts. On the one hand, this is a free market system. By all means, if there's any reason you don't want to buy a product, you don't like their spokesman, you don't like the colors they use, you don't like the taste, whatever it is, you don't have to buy the product. I've heard of somebody who stopped eating at Jack in the Box because they killed their clown-headed spokesman. Even though they brought him back years later, he's like, no, I don't want to eat there anymore. I really like Jack. Like, how dare they get rid of Jack? Fine. If that's your reason, great. I don't have any problem with that. But we need something better than a boycott. A boycott is just power politics. It's showing, hey, we have a lot of people and we have the means to hurt you by all grouping together under the same common cause. We can economically hurt you. And I would prefer people just to choose their products based on whether the chicken sandwich tastes good or not. And we need something different than boycotts in order to motivate people culturally. It's the opposite side of the problem of woke capitalism. And I would love it if we just had a return of taboos. We have no taboos in our culture anymore. If you want to do something, our culture is just like, great, go ahead and do it. Fine. It'd be great if we just had these cultural checks on people that said, hey, you know what? No, that's not okay. You shouldn't do that. We don't think that's cool for you to do. And we just police each other. We don't have to rely on our corporations to say whether this is good or bad. We just culturally say, hey, that's not cool. And here's the taboo that I would apply in this situation. Don't demonize, mock, or taunt people you disagree with. I don't want a law. I don't want to say, we're going to rewrite the First Amendment to prevent people from this. I don't want to send people to prison for it. Just a taboo. Just a cultural thing that we don't do. We don't demonize people. We don't mock them. We don't taunt them. Whether you agree or disagree with them, not cool. Don't do it. And you don't need to choose between Westboro Baptist Church and the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgences. You don't need to choose between those two sides. You can just reject both of them. No, neither of them are okay. I don't like either one. And also, Aubrey Hepburn. But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. Let me know why. I had fun and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.